Hi everyone and welcome back to Bonnie Astrology. Today we're discussing the full moon in Leo happening on the 5th of February 2023 and what it means for your zodiac sign. This full moon is set to be dramatic in the sign of Leo and squaring Uranus in Taurus. If you want to know what this full moon has in store for your sign, just keep watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoy it. You can also book astrology readings with me if you follow the email address listed in the description. This full moon is dramatic. It's the second full moon of 2023, but it is the first full moon we have with all the planets now direct, suggesting that things are full steam ahead. Uranus went direct on the 22nd of January, meaning that we are now getting in touch with our rebellious energy. We are shaking things up. We are not as reluctant to make the changes we want to make because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. Now, the reason that Uranus is so significant is because we are in Aquarius season and Uranus is going to be squaring this full moon, which is suggesting a lot of shakeups. There's a bit of intensity, rebelliousness. There's likely to be shocks and surprises. And because Leo is such a dramatic sign, albeit an incredibly fun one, we are going to be having some rather dramatic surprises with this full moon. Uranus in retrograde had us reflecting on our own individual needs and who we truly are, what we truly want versus what is expected of us. Uranus is very innovative, it's very rebellious, doesn't like to be conformed to convention. So in the sign of Taurus, which is our values, we were reflecting on what our values were, particularly from a unique lens, what was true to us that might not necessarily be true or resonant to other people. Now that Uranus is direct and Uranus is going to square this full moon, it is likely that some of these revelations and realizations we had surrounding what is true to us and what changes we want to make may actually come out in a rather dramatic way with this full moon, particularly if they are linked to the heart. Leo is a sign that represents the heart. It represents love, romance, dating, pleasure, fun, joy, all of this. And Leo also likes to take center stage. So this square from Uranus is actually setting us free where we feel like we've been holding back when it comes to matters of the heart, choices of the heart, where it comes to what is fun for us and what is true to us on a heartfelt level. There's a lot of heart chakra energy associated with this that may be kind of surprising. You might have a sudden surprise heart chakra awakening with this full moon. You might suddenly understand what it is that is really true to you on a heart level. And we're more inclined with this full moon to be determined to do what is right for us rather than what we feel is right for everyone else. And we're also likely to make more changes. We're likely to want to do something true to us. And this might actually result in emotional outbursts with this full moon in Leo. That is why it can be quite dramatic. A square from Uranus can be quite dramatic because it can be abrupt, it can be sudden, but it's never truly sudden. There's usually something going on behind the scenes for a while, and then full moons bring them to the surface. This full moon is opposite the sun in Aquarius. The sun struggles in Aquarius because the sun rules Leo. So when it's opposite sign, the sun can find it a bit cool, a bit aloof, a bit detached. And then we have this flamboyant full moon of emotional drama coming up. So we might feel a little bit like what we're trying to express, what we're trying to convey, what's on our heart, what we feel would make us happy might not necessarily be met with the warmest reception. It might not necessarily be met with people that are like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Now it can, because this can represent finding your soul tribe. It is Aquarius season. But you might also find that some people around you don't quite get where you're going with this. They don't quite understand your vision. This would be an interesting full moon for parties, for celebrations. If you're having parties or celebrations, there is a good inclination here to let people be free to express themselves, whether that would be, having a costume party, dress as you want to dress up as whatever you want to be, whether or not it's having a party where it's less formal, just letting people express themselves authentically, whatever that means to them. Because with the square to Uranus, where people feel confined, where people feel boxed in, where people feel shamed for being themselves, the party will probably go down like a lead balloon. This full moon is calling us to be more carefree, a little bit more rebellious, and not necessarily in a way that is careless or inherently risky, although I feel like people that bottle up that energy might find that coming up around this full moon. They might be more inclined to be accident prone or do something risky because of that square to Uranus if they're not necessarily understanding where that energy is coming from. And that's why astrology is so good, because if we lean into that, we can kind of understand maybe where these feelings to be a bit more rebellious, or these feelings to really show up for ourselves and what it is that we really want on an individualistic level, they can be worked with rather than have them work against us. That's the beauty of a square in astrology. It's dynamic. We can still work with it, even if it sometimes comes in as a bit of a push-pull dynamic. So this full moon is square Uranus. Anybody that has placements in the fixed signs, so that would be obviously with this full moon Aquarius, Leo, but it's also Taurus and Scorpio, from 14 degrees to 20 degrees in their chart. So look up your natal chart, look sun, moon, rising, your Mars, anything that has fixed sign placements between 14 and 20 degrees. You're going to feel this there. So you're going to feel this wherever that placement is in your chart. And you might find that there is some call to express yourself. You might find that some bottled up emotions or emotions you've been suppressing, possibly to avoid making changes, they might come up around this time in order to be felt, in order to be dealt with. With Leo energy, it can be very emotional, it can be romantic, it's felt very personally. Leos are incredibly rejection sensitive, which is why this square to Uranus could be a little bit tricky when it comes to expressing our values, when it comes to expressing what it is that we need. It's about self-expression, it's very proud energy, whereas the sun, which rules Leo, is an Aquarius, very detached, very impersonal, it thinks about the group. So with this full moon, as I say, you might find that you're trying to express yourself, and if you're in the wrong tribe, as it were, if you're with the wrong friends, in the wrong group setting, you might not feel as though you're getting the warmth that you need in order to feel validated in your experience. Whereas if you're in a group of maybe more non-conventional people, or people who are a little bit more carefree, a little bit more rebellious, a little bit more Uranian, this energy might actually be understood. Expressing yourself and expressing your emotions are important, but some emotions may be explosive because this square is abrupt, it's surprising, it's shocking, and it can bring revelations and realizations. So just be prepared for that. There might be some stuff comes up that you weren't necessarily expecting from others or even from yourself. The full moon does want us to reconnect with the heart and joy, and also hold a little bit of space for your insecurities and understand them as part of who you are, nothing to be ashamed of, because Leo energy, especially lunar Leo energy, has trouble expressing at times the more negative emotions, because there is that sense of pride. I don't want people to think things aren't okay with me. I don't want people to think there's something wrong with me. So that can sometimes play out with this Uranus square, in that you may actually find that if you are feeling that way, you can't necessarily contain it, so it comes out anyway. Children in your life might be a little bit more rebellious. They might act out a little bit more. They might want to push the boundaries, push the limits. So be mindful of that too, because Leo does rule children, especially in friendship groups. So if you have kids that are going to school, you might feel like they're running with the wrong crowd, or you might feel a little bit like maybe they're being spurred on by friends or something like that. But with this square to Uranus, it is asking you, what is stopping you from shining? What is stopping you from having spotlight? What is stopping you from expressing what's on your heart? What is stopping you as well from having fun? And with Uranus now direct, it is saying that if it's important to you, if it matters to you, but you feel misunderstood, it might not necessarily be that there's anything wrong with what you're feeling or what you're doing. You might just have to search a little harder for similar people. Perhaps you're maybe feeling like a bit of a black sheep where you are, and you don't feel connected to anybody because you don't find anybody with a similar interest, and you might just have to verge out of the house a little bit to find people with that spiritual interest that you possess. So for those of you that are using GMT, this is happening at 6:23 in the evening, just so you know when this full moon is actually occurring. As I say, it's occurring on the 5th of February. So I'm going to be using the wisdom of the oracle to see what additional message we can get for this full moon in Leo. That is proud, that is playful, it's dramatic, but also a bit shocking, a bit surprising, a bit chaotic. I will say with this full moon, it's a very interesting one. As I mentioned before, if you do have any placements at anywhere between 14 and 20 degrees of the fixed sign, this full moon will be affecting you. So for example, I have Mars at 19 degrees of Scorpio. Don't judge me. So this full moon is going to be forming a T-square with my Mars. So this, for me, could play out in many different ways depending on what Mars rules in my chart. Oops. Ooh. New life. Interesting. Oh my gosh, I just got that song from High School Musical in my head where it's, we're breaking free. That one. We're soaring. That is the vibe that I'm getting from this card. Breaking free. It's a new life. It's about stepping into a new way of expressing yourself, a new way of being seen, because she is on I guess it's a pedestal, right? Isn't it a pedestal? Sort of. She's up there. She's being seen. She's breaking into this new world. This new way of living, this new way of expressing the self, choosing a new life, choosing a new path. There is that sense of all the planets are direct now. There is forward momentum. There is movement. There is growing. And it is less, as I said before, with no retrogrades. It's not about looking back. It's not about thinking about people from the past, experiences from the past. This is about forward momentum into a new life, creating a new life. And with that square to Uranus, it really is encouraging you to think what's right for me that isn't necessarily going to be understood, but it would give me that peace because I know that it is who I am. I know that it is what I want. That is what's coming up with this full moon. And this new life card is in reference to that. Let's do one more. See if we can get a further clue on that one. Imagine, this came up for the new moon in Aquarius video as well. So it's about imagining a new life and seeing what that would mean. We're still in that energy from the new moon in Aquarius because it was setting us up for this all systems go direct growth where we're creating a new life, where we're bringing a future into reality by imagining it now rather than looking backwards. So I think for a lot of people, this full moon is still a time of visualization, of co-creation, of figuring out what it is that you want. Venus is going to be getting ever closer to Neptune, where you're dreaming this, your dreams can manifest, things can come true, things can be thought into existence, felt into existence. So there is this kind of whimsical energy approaching, especially as we lean toward Pisces season. But this is definitely about dreaming a new life into reality and also creating a new life and what that would mean to us. And perhaps that is going to mean for some people choosing to be seen. For others, it's going to be new friends, new soul tribe, new connections. For some, it's new romance. For some, it's new relationships. It'll be many different things, but it's about stepping into what is true to yourself with this full moon. And it's definitely going to be an interesting one. But those cards are quite hopeful. So let's get into the individual zodiac signs and see what is coming up for you for this full moon. I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Aries, hello. This full moon is happening for you in your 5th house of love, romance, playfulness, pleasure, expression, creativity, and it's also children. So for a lot of you, Aries, this full moon could be bringing these matters to the fore. It could also be bringing them to the fore in context of your long-term aspirations and wish fulfillment and friendships. So these are going to be themes that are coming up at this time. Now, the square to Uranus is suggesting that there may be some need to look at these themes with a rather unconventional lens, particularly if you're feeling a little bit trapped. So say you've been stuck at home and your kids are driving you crazy. This might be a full moon where you have to say, I need to spend some time with friends. I need to spend some time with people who share my interests, and you're trying to strike that balance. The square to Uranus can be abrupt, it can be surprising, there can be changes, there can be challenges. For some of you, there can be a very unexpected pregnancy around this full moon. There can be very unexpected events occurring with children. There can just as equally for creatives be very unusual bursts of insight or inspiration at this full moon. So do make sure that if you're creative, you're taking a pen and paper around with you, or, that's very old fashioned. You could just be using your phone, but just make sure that you're prepared to jot it down, because with Uranus, sometimes inspiration strikes and we don't necessarily remember it because it's so abrupt. But for some of you, this could also bring a rather unusual person to date into your life. Venus is in Pisces and it's going to be getting ever closer to Neptune, so there might be something kind of spiritual or dreamy about a person that appears in your life at this time, Aries. If you're single, if you're in a relationship, I feel as though there might need to be some kind of balance when it comes to romance with your partner versus spending time with your friends, and how that's also working for you on a financial level. And making sure that if you're dating or in your relationships, you're choosing to know what each other's values are is something that's coming up. But love and romance seems to be a big theme for you around this time. The square to Uranus is suggesting an air of unpredictability, unconventionality. For some of you, that could be striking up a romance with a friend that you didn't see coming, or something like this, Aries. But this is also, it's a very fun, playful time. But just make sure with Uranus being square there that you're not being reckless. You're just more being a little bit more, you're loosening the reins a little bit, but you're not necessarily being careless and ridiculous about the risks that you're taking, Aries. But let's see what we have for you. You have thinker. So yeah, it's wanting you to think about the things that you're planning to do. If you are planning to do anything around this time, it is wanting you to put some thought behind it, because Uranus, as I say, can be very unpredictable, particularly for you financially. So be careful of extreme spending on something. Be careful of throwing all your money at, spending all your money at a party, or spending all your money at an event or something, or just, say you go out with your friends, you're just like, I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll get this. And then the next day you're completely out of pocket. That's the sort of energy that's coming up with this full moon, Aries. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, this full moon is happening in your 4th house of home and family. It is opposite the sun in your 10th house of career, reputation, social status, and it has a square to Uranus in your 1st house of self and personal goals. So Taurus, the way this full moon appears to be shining for you is that you may find that there are some unexpected emotional outbursts possibly coming from you or your family members, because it is coming in the area of home and family. Maybe you have been feeling a little bit restricted by someone in your family, your living situation. Maybe you have been feeling a little bit like you can't be yourself, you can't express yourself, you can't say what's on your mind, you can't say what you're thinking without feeling like you're walking on eggshells with a particular individual, particularly if this is a father-son dynamic. This can also extend to perhaps it is a boss that you feel like you're walking on eggshells with, or you can't express yourself in front of, or maybe you feel like you have a rather emotional, chaotic boss or authority figure at this time. So with Uranus being in your sign and adding the square, you've been really considering since 2018, but a very strong period of reflection here last year whenever Uranus was in your 1st house squaring Saturn in your 10th. You've really been reflecting on who you're becoming and how you feel that aligns with your public image. There has been a clash there that you've needed to work out, whether that's in the job that you do and your social reputation and your personal wants and needs changing and having to keep up with that. So for a lot of people, maybe there has been retirement or leaving a very long-standing job, or having to give up a particular passion because it no longer aligns from you. And this might be aligns for you, and this might be something that perhaps has put pressure on your family. Maybe they don't understand it, or maybe it's meant you're spending more time with your family, and these emotions can come to the surface in a rather abrupt way. So just be cautious around this time, Leo, that family confrontations can occur. You could find that there's some emotional heated exchanges, or you might just find that the way that you feel is coming to the surface and you need to do something. You need to get out. You need to do something that makes you feel a little bit more free. You maybe need to, on the run up to this full moon, decide you're going to spend a bit more time on your own. You're going to maybe go rent a place to take some time to yourself. You're going to go out, stay in a hotel for a couple of days. Whatever it is that is giving you space, I think, Taurus, is what's really going to work for you around this time. There might also be something comes up in terms of the home where you suddenly want to redecorate. You suddenly want to redecorate your space, make it completely different, try a very different color palette to what you usually use. You might want to swap out all your curtains. You might want to completely rip up the carpet. There's something about your home and your family life, Taurus, I feel that you want to change because of who you're becoming on the inside. And also, I think you've been thinking about this for quite a while. So it's not that shocking to you, but it may be shocking to everyone else, particularly the people you live with. If they're working on their computer and you suddenly come in and yank up the carpet. Just saying. But I do feel for you, Taurus, emotions could be running quite high. And if you feel like you've no outlet for your frustrations or your restrictions, you may become a little bit like a bull in a china shop. So this could be a good time to hit the gym. This could be a good time to do something that gives you a bit of space, gives you a bit of freedom, allows you to respect yourself and your time and your interests. And it kind of gives me that it's not just a phase mom kind of energy for some of you. It's like maybe you're like, I'm going to dye my hair pink, and your family, you show it to your family and you really love it and they laugh. It's that kind of, there could be that kind of conflict going on for some of you, Taurus. But I do think your freedom is going to be very important to you at this time. And you may feel a little bit like you need to express it in some way that your family doesn't necessarily understand, or your boss doesn't necessarily understand. And you need to strike up a bit of a balance, but you want to be free. You want to break free. You want to be a free range bull. We do have mending though. So this full moon may actually, we've between worlds too. I actually think this full moon for you, Taurus, may present an opportunity for you to do some mending when it comes to home and family matters, perhaps with someone in your family, perhaps sometimes with Uranus, the little explosive outbursts, the confrontations can be necessary because they get everything out into the open, and that helps us to mend. So that might be something coming up for you, Taurus, but you might be mending a relationship with someone, and I suspect it could be in your family, but it could also be in your career. That's what I have for you, Taurus, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, Sun, Moon and Rising. Welcome to the full moon in Leo for your sign. So Gemini, this full moon is happening in your third house. The third house is to do with communication, it's to do with our siblings, it's to do with our cousins, it's to do with our neighbours, it's also to do with the way that we're thinking, it's to do with what's on our minds, what we're interested in learning. Probably more on a micro level rather than taking a university course. But the sun is in your ninth house, which is to do with higher learning. It's to do with travel. The third house is also short trips. The ninth house is longer term trips, like longer distance. So for a lot of you, this Aquarius season could have been a time for you to plan trips, to plan travel experiences, or to take travel experiences. A very good time to take a traveling voyage or an adventure, Gemini, because I feel like you could feel a little bit claustrophobic with this full moon. If you're not taking some kind of trip or adventure, it would be a really good time to do so, particularly if it is a spiritual retreat. Uranus is squaring this full moon, and Uranus, Gemini, is in your 12th house, which is to do with the spiritual, it's to do with your mental health. I feel as though if you feel like you are suffering a little bit from a mental health perspective, it's very important that or you may be just feeling a bit burned out, you maybe want to recharge, it might be a time for you to take a solo trip, but be very careful about where you pick it, and who you're going with, because it feels as though with Uranus there, you might want a little bit of freedom when it comes to your own emotional well-being. Like you might want to go somewhere where you can, express your emotions. That's why maybe it's a group retreat, a spiritual retreat, or something like that might be occurring for you around this time, because it may allow you to express what's on your heart, what's on your mind. With Uranus there, if you've been bottling up things in a mental health or emotional sense, or in an emotional sense, because of the status quo, because maybe you didn't want to be a burden to anyone, you didn't want to bother anybody, if you have been doing that, this full moon could be a bit explosive, because Uranus is there revolutionizing your relationship to your mental health. And for a lot of Gemini risings in particular, this can be taking a more spiritual perspective, a more spiritual route. It's more like a series of awakenings since 2018. And this is in some way clashing with perhaps what you're studying, what you're learning, or the trips that you're taking. So it feels, Gemini, as though there might be some kind of abrupt energy comes up in a conversation where you feel misunderstood, or you're trying to discuss something that is maybe a little bit more out there, and you're not necessarily being met with people that understand what you're saying. It could be a misunderstanding, because it's not necessarily that they don't, trust you or believe you in what you're discussing, but it could be that perhaps they're thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. So they just don't get it. So for you, this is a time where you're more likely to want to find people that share your understanding, particularly because your ruler Mercury, which is now direct, is in this nice sextile to Neptune. And I think that's saying that you might want to discuss more spiritual topics. You might be more interested in spiritual topics. You might be more interested in talking about mental health, about healing, about emotions, about how we work through issues in our lives. You might be more inclined to want to discuss those or enjoy those. And perhaps that is in some way interfering with a trip that you've planned or a trip that you're taking. You know, you could be on a trip with someone and you want to go to some kind of spiritual experience and the person doesn't want to, or you feel like you want to discuss something and it might just not be as, you might not feel as understood if you do try to discuss something. It also feels a little bit like for a lot of you, perhaps something you're studying, perhaps something you're learning, short courses, having to take in all this information, having to learn all these new materials, they could be feeling a bit overwhelming and you might need to take a step back. You might need to take a break from a mental health perspective, Gemini. So let's get you an oracle card and see what we have. You got mending as well. Taurus got this. So maybe Geminis and Taurus have had falling out, I don't know, but you have the mending card as well. So there's something about this full moon, I feel that the tension with Uranus is perhaps bringing up some confrontation with people, a bit of emotional abruptness, but it is to get what's on your heart out there, and perhaps this is going to help mend in the process, is what I'm kind of getting from this. Because Neptune is also to do with forgiveness, and Mercury is sextiling Neptune, bringing this forgiveness and confrontation, or forgiveness in communication, to the surface. So perhaps there is something to be mended with a Taurus for you guys, or just in general is an energy that is permeating with this full moon itself. But that's what I have for you, Gemini, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, Sun, Moon and Rising. Welcome to the full moon in Leo. Cancer, this full moon is happening in your second house of finances, your income, your values. So it feels as though with this full moon happening on your second house, eighth house axis, that was kind of tongue twister. It feels as though there's a lot of financial energy surrounding this. Now, it is squaring Uranus in Taurus, which for you, Cancer, is your 11th house of your aspirations, of your dreams, of your friendships, of your social groups. Perhaps some of you may need to go on a social media or an internet detox before you spend any more money on what it is that you keep seeing on the internet. Perhaps the internet is really driving up your spending. Because this full moon is exposing your spending and your finances in some regards. So maybe you're realizing with this full moon that you've been a little bit inclined to spend a lot of money based on the internet, based on your friends, based on peer pressure, and you're finding that you feel a little bit now that you need to rein it in. Maybe you've been doing it in a sense that you wanted to feel financially free. Do you know when you get people that are talking about the law of attraction and things, and they talk about financial abundance and how spending money is better than hoarding money in terms of a vibrational perspective? But this might be for you that you were spending from a place of feeling stuck or avoiding necessary change or avoiding looking at something. So for a lot of you, your finances are going to come to the fore here. Some of you might also actually have, though, very interesting ideas when it comes to making money online, when it comes to innovation. Uranus squares can be very dynamic as well. They can give you revelations, they can give you insights. This might also be that a friend says something that at first kind of irritates you, that's linked to money and finances, and then it kind of dawns on you that, oh, this might actually be a good idea. You know, there's that irritation there with the square to Uranus, but there's also that, oh, aha moment. So some of you might actually be getting some really clear insights when it comes to your money, when it comes to your resources, and also when it comes to your values. Some of you could butt heads a little bit with a friend that you have different values on a matter. It might be linked to your relationship. It might be linked to their relationship. There's a potential for a bit of confrontation, I think, going on here when it comes to somebody's relationship, maybe in terms of values or maybe in terms of finances. The square from Uranus to the Sun in your 8th house is also suggesting for a lot of you, you might feel a bit more triggered than usual. The 8th house season is a very psychological place to navigate. So this can be a time when you become, with the Sun, more aware of your triggers, more aware of your patterning, more aware of your fears and your phobias. And it may come from something that a friend does. It might come from something you see on the internet. It might come from something that a group, to do with a group, whatever it is. There might be some key insights, Cancer, into your psychology, and that could be linked to your spending around this full moon. Some of you could also come into unexpected money, or you may also have unexpected spending if it links to plans for the future. So let's get you an oracle card and see what we have for Cancer. To be fair. Okay, so there could be something legal coming up for you with this because this is very justice energy, but I feel as though it is about getting your finances balanced and also trying to take a fair and rational approach with anything that does come up at this time. But to me, this looks a little bit like balancing your checkbook, if you know what I mean. Balancing out your finances, balancing out your money spent versus money earned, what's your outgoings versus your ingoings, that kind of thing, Cancer. And I also feel like it's just taking a more moderate approach to any conflicts that might be coming up at this time and trying to seek a bit of balance. So that's what I have for you, Cancer, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, Sun, Moon and Rising. Welcome to the full moon in your sign. So Leo, this full moon is happening in your first house of self. So you are center stage, Leo. You're in the spotlight. You're the one that everyone wants to know what you're doing. But this is also, of course, then happening on your first house, seventh house axis, which is to do with partnerships and relationships. So Aquarius season for you is all to do with relationships. By the time this full moon rolls around, though, the only other planet in your relationship sector is Saturn. The new moon that happened on the 21st of January set a new beginning when it comes to your relationships, your partnerships, your marriage, your business partnerships. There was some kind of new beginning, some sort of new dynamic forming. And with the Venus-Saturn conjunction, it was setting this up for commitments when it comes to your relationship. This full moon is sort of bringing those feelings to the fore surrounding your relationship, surrounding the relationship you're in, surrounding what you want from a relationship if you're not in one. Now, the full moon is putting the spotlight, as I say, on you, your own needs, your own wants, who you are, who you're becoming. You're in the spotlight. There is this square from Uranus in your 10th house, which is to do with your public image, your public persona, how the world views you. So I feel as though some of you, this can go a couple of ways. Some of you could be finding that since 2018, you have, in terms of your career, wanted more freedom. You've wanted to be less restricted. You've probably wanted to be self-employed. For a lot of you, you probably wanted to live a more, your freedom in your career is important to you. You might have taken a more rebellious stance. You could be doing something unusual, something innovative, particularly if it's linked to the online world. So for a lot of you, that could have been something as simple as taking the hybrid model, working from home if you're still in, a traditional job. And for others of you, this has been seeking self-employment or doing something that is against the status quo. So Uranus being here and squaring this energy is pushing that energy a little bit more onto you, where you're seeking this freedom when it comes to what it is you're doing professionally. And you might have been feeling a little bit since August that you've been restricted either by a male that you work with or in the workplace, or perhaps a boss, or perhaps being your own boss. There's something about it where you felt a bit restricted and you want to make a change when it comes to your career, and you're really feeling very emotional about this around the full moon. So if it's not something you're addressing, it might be something that comes up in a little bit of an explosive way. And you may find that if you have a business partner, or you work one-on-one with someone, or you're even just in a relationship, this could be something that they have to help you deal with too, or they could find themselves sort of in the crossfire between your frustrations and what's going on for you professionally. It feels like with this full moon, you're being asked to express what's on your heart when it comes to these matters. There might be some underlying tension for a while that does explode, and sometimes this is necessary because once we've had that emotional release, sometimes it's a lot easier to navigate and make clear, thought-through decisions. And there's going to be a lot of forward momentum for you, Leo, because this is the first time Uranus has gone direct in a couple of years where it's not in this 10th square to Saturn. So you're not feeling as restricted. You're a lot more able to breathe. You're a lot more able to find freedom in what it is that you're doing. But for some reason, it's bothering you at this time. You're feeling a little bit restricted by something, and it has to come out. It has to be said. You're looking to shake up and have a little bit more freedom when it comes to those matters. And maybe also with okay, Treasure Island. That's really cute. This is an interesting card to get. I feel like there's some, it's nice because the full moon is in your sign, so there is a sense of manifestation with this, but I feel as though there's something manifesting for you it feels like treasure. It feels like something is being found or being encountered that feels like gold. It feels very exciting. that comes as a matter of this full moon. Now, because it's your full moon, I'll give you two. What's going on for Leos? Go the distance. Okay. So Treasure Island and go the distance. So yes, a lot of you since the new moon in Aquarius have been making some kind of commitment to something that will probably, with this cheetah card, oh hey, this matches my top, that will probably go the distance in some way, shape or form. I do think with this Treasure Island card, you're being asked in a sense to figure out what matters to you and what would make you happy, because you are the sign that represents happiness. What would make you feel happy? What would make you feel fulfilled? And I think for a lot of you, there seems to be some kind of, there's something here that's really cheering you up around this full moon, something that you really want that's going to last. I also think, Leo, that with the full moon in your sign and you being in the spotlight, this might be encouraging you to go after something that you really want. With the treasure here and the go the distance, you might be going after something. I also think because this is in your first house, you could be reaching the finish line on a particular goal, something you've been working on for yourself. You are more likely to be seen at this time. So with the square to Uranus, just be careful about being too erratic. If you feel like you've all this pent up emotion, you are in the spotlight and you might not necessarily want to display certain things that you're feeling, but if you suppress them, they can come out. And I think that when it comes to career or something you're pursuing or something that you want, whether that's professional or not, it is telling you that in order to go the distance, you are going to have to take maybe a more steady approach than the Uranian letting things fester and then suddenly rebelling. So that is what I have for you, Leo. I hope you have a good one and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Virgo. Virgo, this full moon is happening in your 12th house. This is very behind the scenes. It's a place of retreat. It's a place of research. It's a place of looking inward. And then it is going to be opposite the sun in your 6th house, which is to do with your physical well-being. So the 12th house is very mental. It's your mental and emotional health. The 6th house, where the sun is to do with your physical health, your physical well-being and wellness. It's the wellness genre. So the square here to Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is in a fellow earth sign, which is good, especially if you have Virgo placements around, 14, 15, 16 degrees. But Uranus being here is wanting to liberate and find a more breathable way of living in your 9th house, which is to do with the higher self. It's to do with philosophy. It's to do with higher learning, your perspectives on the world, foreign locations, that kind of thing. So it might be for a lot of you that you're finding that you want to take some time to yourself. So this could manifest in a couple of ways. You could be finding that when it comes to your higher study, your university, perhaps if you're in uni or you're in college, you could be finding you actually want to take a few days, you want to take a bit of a retreat, or you're wanting to take a bit of time off and maybe the university is saying, no, we need you to do this. Or perhaps some of you are feeling a bit like if you're on a trip with a lot of people, if you're taking a holiday, you want to take a day or two to yourself and you're feeling this pressure to not do that, to engage. The full moon in the 12th house is usually a time, Virgo, where we take a beat. We take a moment to ourselves. We take some time in solitude. We're more inclined to need more sleep. Our dreams are more active. We might be feeling a bit more psychically burnt out. It's a good time for, a Himalayan salt bath, cleansing your energy, cleansing your space, taking a bit more rest, taking a bit of reflection. And also with the sun being in the 6th house, it's about taking better care of ourselves physically, making sure we're eating well, we're getting a bit of exercise. We're just taking self-care to the next level. But the square to Uranus is saying that perhaps you have something you need to study, perhaps you have something you need to consider, perhaps you have somewhere you need to go. And you're feeling like, I can't do this. I can't do this thing as well. Like I need to just switch off. I need to just take some time to myself. And Uranus going through the 9th house is saying, but what about this? Like, don't you want to go here? And don't you want to learn this? And you need to study this. And these are where the kind of erratic energy is coming in from Uranus. And you're finding yourself maybe a little bit afraid by the amount of things that you're learning or the amount of things you have to consider. Or perhaps you're having some kind of crisis of faith with this square to the moon. And it maybe is just more to do with being a bit burnt out, Virgo, rather than anything else. So let's do some, what have I done with the cards? Let's do some oracle cards for you, Virgo. As I say, this is a very psychic time for you. Mercury, your ruler, is in a nice sextile to Neptune in your 7th house, and Mercury is going through your 5th house. So there could be some nice, romantic communications going on for you at this time, Virgo, or creative communications with collaborations. But we have the community card has come up as your oracle, suggesting that this is a time to focus on finding your soul tribe, very Aquarius season, connecting with like-minded people, making sure that you're seeking support, even if you want to be alone. That can be as simple as texting someone, that can be as simple as reaching out to somebody if you just want to stay at home. For the 12th house, this can also be a time where maybe you're going to an event. But I have to say with the 12th house, it's more likely to be quite spiritual in nature if you are going to an event or something that is very, very low key with this community card. I often find myself that when there's a full moon in the 12th house, you are more inclined to have to stay at home for some reason, and you're more inclined to have to stay put. So for some of you, this might be, if you are planning on a trip, just make sure that you are taking care of yourself out and about to make sure you don't, catch something like a cold or whatever that might interfere with you having to take some time off and stay at home, Virgo. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Libra, this full moon is happening for you in your 11th house of social networking, friendships, teams, groups. So Libra, this is the part of the sky for you that is put into the spotlight with this Leo full moon. It is going to be opposite the sun in your 5th house, which is to do with dating, romance, creativity, pleasure, fun. So for a lot of you, you might be attending a party around this time, or you might be attending some sort of team gathering, some sort of community gathering. For some of you, you might also be finding that your internet or your social media life is in some way in the spotlight. Perhaps you go viral, or perhaps you are, with that sun in the 5th house, connecting with someone on the internet on a romantic capacity, or maybe just a creative friendship or something like that. But these are the areas in the spotlight. Now, Uranus in your 8th house of Taurus is squaring this full moon. So it might be that you, for example, are getting invited to this party, you're getting invited to an event where you're going to be able to connect with a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of fun in the mix. But Uranus in Taurus is saying to you that perhaps you feel a little bit restricted by these people or triggered by these people, or maybe you just feel like you want to be discussing more taboo topics, or maybe you're finding that the conversation is not that exciting. You could find it a little bit boring. Maybe you're finding with Uranus going through your 8th house that you're really liberating yourself from these fears and these phobias, and you're wanting to talk about things like astrology or psychology or serial killers or something like that. And you're finding that it's just not meshing with the people in the group or something like that, because Uranus is giving you this rebellious energy, this innovative energy. But it might also be that you're actually finding that perhaps you are connecting with people who have similar patterning to you that you want to break free from. Like maybe you're finding with people that you're getting these really interesting downloads about yourself, and you're connecting with people and realizing you've the same, for example, attachment style, or you've had similar things happen to you in your life, or you're interested in similar taboo topics. That could just as easily be coming up there with the square, because it can be very dynamic and lead to a bit of revelations and realizations. But you could also just as easily be understanding things about yourself on a psychological level through maybe clashing with friends or clashing with teams. There could also be unexpected endings when it comes to teams, groups, or maybe friendships. So someone could leave, if you're part of a team, someone could leave unexpectedly. There could be someone decides that they're going to go somewhere else, or they're not on the same page as you guys anymore. And there could be something sort of shocking and dramatic about that when it comes to friendships. It might also be that a friend tells you something that you absolutely did not expect. So maybe they are suddenly back together with an ex that you really hate, or maybe they are suddenly moving to Taiwan. I don't know. It could just be very unexpected and very unusual when it comes to a friend, or a friend could tell you something that you can't believe you didn't know, but they've actually been going through something in their lives that you were not privy to for a long period of time, Libra. So you might learn something that you did not expect about friends. You might also learn something about a love interest that you did not expect either, Libra. There could be a few shocks and surprises with Uranus being in the mix here. Ooh, goodness me. We have all that glitters. All that glitters isn't gold. I think for some of you, you could realize that there has been something maybe hidden from you that you did not know, or something that you didn't see, and this full moon is revealing it, because now all the planets are direct and it's all systems go, and there's things to do and things to be seen. We also have message in a bottle underneath. I feel like you guys are learning something you didn't know. That's what I'm getting from this. Like there's something that you thought was one way, it's actually another way. There might be someone that you really thought was next level kind of special, maybe in your team, in your social group, in your friendships. And then you're learning something that was not, that shows, you know, it wasn't the case with this message in a bottle card underneath. So that'll be an interesting one for Libra. Do keep me posted. I hope you have a wonderful full moon and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising. Welcome to the full moon in Leo for your sign. So Scorpio, this full moon is happening in your 10th house of the spotlight. You are center stage on the world here because this is your 10th house, and the 10th house, it's career, it's your public image, it's your reputation, it's your status, it's how the world sees you. And this woman is happening there opposite the sun in your 4th house of home and family, and a very tender part of the sky for you. So that sector is also quite linked to the past. So maybe there has been a little bit of reflection, particularly when it comes to family matters. It might have put a lot of family matters to center stage, but now this full moon is saying, well, what are we thinking and feeling when it comes to career? So there is an opposition, not just an opposition, there's an opposition, yes, between the sun and the moon in Aquarius and Leo, but there is a square going on from Uranus in your opposite sign. So Uranus is in Taurus, and that's going through your 7th house. It's been there since 2018. It's been shaking up what you want from relationships, how you view relationships, particularly shake-ups within your relationship life. And this is in some way, I feel like a lot of you have been revising and reflecting on what it is that you want from a partnership or your partnership. And maybe there's something that you want to change. Perhaps there's something that you want to try that's a little bit different, or you've taken a more non-conventional approach to relationships. And this is in some way maybe causing a bit of conflict or contention with family, or it's causing a bit of contention or conflict with career. This could be that a business partner of yours is taking a more unconventional approach, or it might be that you meet someone who can help you in your career and your family are thinking, what? Like, what is this? It's almost as if your family, I think, Scorpio, don't quite understand what your professional goal is here, or maybe your relationship. There's something, you know, all of these things coming together. It's just, it feels like it might appear to be a bit of a mismatch to some people what your next career move is, and your, you know, what you want to present to the world might not necessarily be something that your partner understands or your family understands with where you're going career-wise. You might be trying something within your work that's a bit non-conventional. You might be getting some kind of recognition for something that makes everyone think, huh? Or you might be taking a new professional route or leaving behind a professional route that was very typical of you, and you're trying something new and everyone's a little bit shook. That's kind of the energy that I'm getting from this for you, Scorpio, because in a professional level, you're definitely in the spotlight here. But there's something about it that feels a little bit like you need more freedom, particularly if it comes to a business partner, or particularly if it comes to your relationships or your family. In order to enjoy your career, you need to try something a little bit different or do things your way. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the energy that I am getting for you, Scorpio. It's like there's a little bit of thinking outside the box here, where you've been feeling a bit restricted by other people's opinions when it comes to what you want to do next professionally, or even what you're doing professionally. Those feelings may be what's coming to the surface. But as I say, some of you could also get recognition in your career with the full moon being there. And it might be for something, especially, you know, if you're in an unconventional career, or there's something a bit different about what you've been doing, or if it was humanitarian, if it was to do with helping people, I do feel like a lot of you could be receiving recognition for it at this time. So Scorpio, full moon in Leo, clean it up. So I feel like a lot of you are going to be cleaning at this time with the sun in your 4th house and Saturn there. Perhaps you're cleaning up house, perhaps you're decluttering. You also have serendipity underneath, which is kind of cute. It feels like there might be serendipitous moments happening for you around this time, moments of inspiration. And it feels as though for a lot of you, when you clean your house, when you clean your home, the energy shift will bring in something. It's almost as if you give away, you know, say you give away some of your stuff, or you declutter your home, all of a sudden new opportunities start coming in, or new people start coming in and stuff like that. Like, say you were in a relationship that didn't work out and you're finally ready to give back all the stuff or get rid of all the memories, and then, you know, the next thing you know, you're out the next day and you meet somebody and it starts a new relationship, that kind of thing. It's about letting go of the old when it comes to your home in order to call in the new, particularly maybe professionally. That's what I have for you, Scorpio, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and Rising. Welcome to the full moon in Leo for your sign. So Sagittarius, this full moon is happening in your 9th house, and that is to do with foreign travel. So it's to do with higher education, your philosophy, your faith, your worldview. That sort of thing is coming into the spotlight for you at this time. And it is going to be opposing the Sun in Aquarius, which is your 3rd house of learning, which is communication, neighbors, siblings, cousins, those kind of people. So these are key themes going on for you around this full moon that is going to be taking center stage. There is a square to Uranus in your 6th house, which is your everyday work, but also your physical body, your physical well-being and wellness in general. So for a lot of you Sagittarius, I feel like with Uranus going through the 6th house, some of you since 2018, but particularly with the retrograde happening in August 2022, up until January 2023, you might have had some stuff was slowing you down physically. You might have had to reflect on some things when it came to your physical health. Perhaps some of you went through periods of being unwell, or there was some sort of physical limitations or health limitations for you that were making you feel a bit stuck and you felt like you couldn't make changes. Now Uranus is going direct. A lot of you are going to be more inclined to want to make changes and notice forward movement movement when it comes to health matters and when it comes to how you work with your physical body. But also that applies to your day job, to what it is that you're doing in work. Maybe some of you have been a bit restricted with work since August for whatever reason, and you've been feeling a little bit like you want to shake things up and make changes. Now the frustrations that are there are still there internally. So you might be feeling now that Uranus is direct, that these changes, you're starting to feel like, oh, I could make this happen. And you're getting this buildup of energy, but the frustration's still in there. And it might come out in an explosive way if you haven't been channeling it or working through it. It might come up in an explosive way directed potentially at your sense of faith, your sense of higher perspective. You know, you could be feeling mad at God. You could be feeling mad about your beliefs. You could be feeling like you don't resonate with them anymore. There could be a little bit of an emotional outburst when it comes to faith, or this might be as well to do with a travel matter. Like you might suddenly be, say you were going through something physically and you're feeling a lot better, you might suddenly want to travel and you're realizing like, oh, my passport's out of date, or I can't get anybody to go with me. There's kind of frustration linked to your physical well-being, but also your work. So maybe your work isn't letting you take a trip and you're feeling very restricted and very stuck, or perhaps you wanted to go for a higher learning course and work is not accommodating that either. Your frustrations may come to the head here, but with the full moon being here, it is kind of suggesting that it's an emotional release when it comes to your higher perspectives in a way, Sagittarius. So you might be noticing that matters of faith, matters of learning, matters of travel are all very important to you, and you're trying to get your freedom back when it comes to your day-to-day work, or when it comes to your physical well-being and your wellness in general. We have poised. I think a lot of you could actually be taking up yoga or taking up dance or taking up something to do with actually moving your body that is in a way going to help you find grace and elegance within yourself, because poised is it really does give me yoga energy. I know it's not a yoga card. We also have new life, so it's sort of like giving me this sense of you might be trying something new that gives you more balance in life, and it really seems to be that both these people are on pedestals. You're wanting to lean into that full moon in Leo position and take the high road. Interesting. Take the high route. The high road. Take the high road is what's coming up for you guys, I think. Taking things from a higher perspective. You rule the 9th house, you understand that. But I do think some of you could actually be taking up yoga or taking up something new when it comes to fitness in order for you to feel more physically strong or work through some of the frustrations that are going on when it comes to maybe learning or when it comes to travel affairs, because this is happening on your learning axis. It could be that if you're in university or you have something to study or you have a course, there could be some frustrations come up linked to maybe your day job, your part-time job, or just linked to maybe feeling a little bit physically off or something like that, and really feeling kind of stuck in that regard and wanting to break free. But that's what I have for you, Sagittarius, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising. Welcome to the full moon in Leo for your sign. So Capricorn, this full moon is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is linked to other people's money, other people's resources. It is linked to regeneration. It's linked to death and rebirth. It's linked to change. It is linked to the occult as well. But it's also linked to psychology. So there might be something going on here where you're shining a light on some kind of patterns, Leo. You may be having some intense realizations, or you may be working through some things, or you may be feeling a little bit more triggered than usual with the full moon in the 8th house. And it could be that perhaps you're deciding you need to let go of something. And this might be triggered by your romantic life. This might be triggered by dating. You're realizing that in order to have the kind of romantic life or the type of love that you want, you're having to let go of some sort of patterning or some sort of conditioning. Or you might find that with Uranus being there in the 5th house squaring this full moon, that maybe falling in love is a triggering thing for you, or maybe dating is a triggering thing for you, and it's bringing up some stuff that you have to release. And that can be maybe a little bit frustrating, but it can also be kind of spicy with this full moon, I can't lie. So whatever your romantic life is looking at, Capricorn, looking like around this time, there can be a bit of a spicy energy going on for you. The sun is in the 2nd house, which is opposing this full moon and squaring off Uranus as well. So when it comes to your finances, it might be with the square to Uranus that you're maybe determined to take a gamble on something. You may be determined to bet your money on something. It's not the best time to do so, I have to say, for you, Capricorn. If you're feeling like you suddenly want to bet, a lot of money on something to see if it pays off, it's really not the time, I think, to be taking that kind of risk. You might want to invest some money into something creative, but just make sure that you're not being careless with it. Not that really is your nature, but you know what I mean? It sort of comes up with the sun in the 2nd squaring Uranus in the 5th. You might want to take a gamble that doesn't necessarily pay off, or is a bit risky. But this full moon being in the 8th house really is shining a light on what is considered taboo with you. So there might be something going on in your life where you feel a little bit like you need to be true to yourself when it comes to maybe your interest in the occult. Maybe you're interested in astrology and you've not shared it with other people yet and you want to talk about it. Maybe you have realized a few things about your patterning and you're scared of mentioning it to people you're dating, or maybe, you're finding someone you're dating is overstepping your boundaries and you don't know how to bring it up, or something like this could be happening for you around this time, Capricorn. So let's have a little look and see what we get for you. There could definitely be something financial coming up for you around this time as well, with the full moon being in the 8th house. Your partner's money could come into focus. Your money and how you pool resources could come into focus, or taxes could be a big theme for you around this time, Capricorn. But we have blessed. Love that for you. Number 22, blessed. And also to the sea. I feel like some of you could be spending time near the ocean at this time, Capricorn, or going down to the beach or going to the sea in order to recharge. There is something around this time that you feel really blessed by. The number 22 is kind of giving me the sense, Capricorn, that it may be linked to relationships. So it might be that there is something going on for you in your romantic life that feels like a blessing. Something may come up to do with your relationship or someone you're dating that feels like a blessing. But with Uranus in the 5th house, full steam ahead now, there may be a need to be a bit more open when it comes to dating. So say you're single, be a bit more open to dating someone who's not like you, or maybe being more open to dating someone who comes from a different sort of set of circumstances, whatever it is. There seems to be a blessing occurring for you at this time, Capricorn, which looks lovely. So that is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Aquarius, this full moon is happening in your opposite sign of Leo. This is your significant other. This is your relationship. If it's not a romantic relationship or a marital spouse, this can be your best friend, this can be your business partner, this can be the one person you live with, this is you and another. So this is being put into the spotlight here. There's a bit of tension coming in from Uranus in your 4th house. So I feel like for some of you, there might have been, since August, you might have felt a little bit pressured when it came to home and family matters, when it came to having to stay at home more, or having to be in contact more with someone in your family, whatever that means to you. You felt maybe a little bit restricted. You felt like you really wanted to make change. Maybe some of you have really wanted to move home. Perhaps some of you have felt very stuck in the home that you're in, or you've felt very suffocated by something going on within your family. And this full moon might bring that to the fore a little bit, especially if it has been impacting a key relationship in your life, say your partner, your spouse, or whatever. there might be something where you're feeling like you really want to make changes and you want to put them out there, and maybe your partner feels a little bit, didn't see it coming. Or maybe this is an important discussion that needs to come up when you want to make changes when it comes to your home and your family life, Aquarius, or your living situation, or to do with your roommates. There is that square suggesting that to somebody at least this might be kind of a shock, or might be kind of surprising, or it might seem kind of sudden. Maybe some of you are deciding that you're going to make a sudden move. Maybe your partner has got a job and you have to move unexpectedly. There is a sense of unpredictability and a little bit of chaos when it comes to home and family matters and your relationship. And then the sun being in your first house and how that impacts you, Aquarius. So there's a bit of chaos and unpredictability going around at this time, especially if you're an Aquarius that is at around 16 degrees of Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, 15, 16, 17 degrees. You will probably be feeling this the most. It sort of seems to me, Aquarius, that this change may be a long time coming. So it might have been something you've been sitting on and it just escalates, or if there's been something going on at home or in the family, this comes up around this time. It might also be your partner's family, because this full moon is in your partnership relationship zone. So if you're single, it doesn't have to be a partner. It can be your roommate, it can be your best friend, it can be a business partner, but it might also be highlighting a key relationship in your life, Aquarius, or maybe a new relationship in your life with the square to Uranus. This could be someone who you unexpectedly meet through family, or it might be someone that your family don't quite get. They might be very different. You might have very different families. If you're dating someone, or if you're single, there might be a relationship highlighted here that's kind of unconventional. But what unconventional means for you, I don't know. Maybe unconventional means for you they're actually very normal. It's kind of that, it's an Aquarius energy. What's unusual for an Aquarius? I don't know. And I'm not judging you. I'm an Aquarius moon. And even in sidereal, I'm an Aquarius rising. So I'm not judging at all. It just seems to be that there might be something a little bit unusual going on here for you in terms of your relationships. But this is definitely putting your partner, your marriage, your one-on-one relationship life into the spotlight, Aquarius. And with the sun ruling your relationships and the square to Uranus, there's definitely something kind of unpredictable. There might be some changes that your partner's making or you have to make that affects your relationship. But this could be quite an unpredictable time in that sense. The good thing, though, is that your traditional ruler Saturn in your sign is still moving full steam ahead to get out of Aquarius and will be leaving next month in March. And Uranus, your traditional ruler, is now direct. Both are direct, suggesting you have forward momentum here. And with Uranus now direct, it's very supportive for Saturn, and it's also more supportive for the sun in your sign. So you might be feeling more inspired to go after the things that you want, and you might also have a little bit more energy, Aquarius, to pursue something. But let's get you a card and see what we get. Oh, you got the Loyal Heart card. Oh, there's something underneath. By the book. Oh my goodness. Okay. So when it comes to your relationships, I feel like a lot of you are with someone who's really very loyal, with the two owls here and the Loyal Heart, and by the book, someone who's very traditional. If you're not in a relationship, I think this is what you're attracting. Someone who is traditional. So it's like the unconventional part might be Aquarius, that they're more traditional than you, or they live a more conventional lifestyle than you, or they have more conventional wants in a relationship than you would think, or something like this. But I do feel this is really cute. By the book and the Loyal Heart, someone that does things the traditional way. I also feel like with the two elephants and then the little baby elephant, maybe in your relationship you guys are thinking of starting a family, or you're thinking of doing something as a family, or you're expanding your family, or something like this. You're taking a little trip with the little elephants. Elephants are very loyal too. That's really cute. So I feel like for you, Aquarius, in terms of your relationships where this full moon is, there seems to be something about a loyal heart and doing things by the book. So maybe if there are changes going on to you, you're maybe feeling like at the end of the day, you can count on the person that you're with. And if you're not with anybody, I do feel like you're attracting someone into your life who is a loyal heart and wants to do things by the book. That's what I have for you, Aquarius. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Pisces, sun, moon and rising. Pisces, this full moon is happening in your 6th house of wellness, your physical well-being, your day-to-day routine, and also your work. So this can be to do with your employees, and this can also be to do with your colleagues. there could be something coming to the fore there. So maybe in a work capacity, there is your relationships with your colleagues is being put into the spotlight, and with the square to Uranus, there's something unpredictable happening at work. Maybe people are being a bit more erratic. Maybe someone said something that you didn't expect them to say. Maybe there's unexpected communication when it comes to your workplace. Maybe some of you are finding that there's a need for a little bit more freedom in terms of what it is that you're saying, in terms of what it is that you're learning. Your interests since 2018, Pisces, may have been more varied. You may have been taking short courses in things that were a little bit more unique, a little bit more different, or a little bit more unconventional, with Uranus going through your third house of learning. You may also have found that you wanted to express yourself more. You wanted to discuss taboo topics or unusual topics a little bit more. And with Uranus being retrograde from August until January, you were feeling like you were maybe suppressing some of these things, or you didn't know how to, express what was on your mind. And this full moon may actually bring some of those things to the fore. It just so happens that it might be a bit of a clash. So you might clash with, say, a colleague or an employee about something you're discussing. Words might get mixed up. There's a little bit of, miscommunication potentially here with Uranus squaring the moon in the 6th house. It might also be that you realize that some erratic or unusual behavior from a sibling, from a cousin, or from a neighbor is actually impacting you physically. You might be feeling a little bit run down because of stress that's coming in from someone in your life who's acting in a way that is unpredictable or chaotic, or maybe someone says something and you realize that some of that stress is actually impacting you physically, and you need to take a day or two to unwind, Pisces, because this is also affecting the sun in your 12th house, which is to do with healing and your mental health. So you might need to take a few days to unwind around this time, or there might be a secret coming to the fore in your workplace, or surrounding a colleague or something like that, Pisces. And let me have a little look. We also have Venus moving towards Neptune, and that will be a really nice energy for you that you deal with in February with Venus and Neptune, because that is a beautiful time of manifestation for you, and abundance and blessings and luck. So that's something to look forward to. But I do feel like this full moon is putting your health into order, like into your, your priority here, even if you feel a little bit like people in your life are being unpredictable, or, something that you learned is, maybe you're stressed about something you're studying. I don't know, Pisces. It feels as though you're having to put your physical and mental health first and look after yourself. This might also be a time when you realize that you want to change the way that you look after yourself based on something you read or based on something you see online, Pisces. And this full moon could also be a time of realizing you've met some kind of goal when it came to a fitness goal or a physical well-being goal, Pisces. We have the Thinker card. So I feel like a lot of you could be overthinking at this time. You could be finding yourself really thinking very deeply about certain topics, certain discussions. It's also saying think before you act, I feel. Let me see. Breathe. Think and breathe. It's a good combination. Yes, it's wanting you to take a breather. It's wanting you to think about what you want to say before you do, especially when it comes to community. I think it's asking you to, for some of you, practice breath work in order to navigate the thoughts in your head, to meditate more, especially with the sun going through the 12th house and Saturn still being there, and them gearing towards a conjunction a little bit later in February. It is asking you to really meditate, to take more time to yourself, to put your health as your priority, and to engage in something that makes you feel calm or helps calm your mind. But that's what I have for you, Pisces. I hope you have a beautiful full moon, and I will talk to you soon.